Hey, fourth grade, it is time to review for chapter 4. We have our math test tomorrow, so let's go ahead and get to work. I'm going to go through each lesson very quickly to give you a brief summary of what we've learned in this chapter, and then I will go over the very start of your review page for today so that you make sure that you're on the right track with those vocab terms, because sometimes they can get a little confusing. And I want you to study the right things. So let's go ahead and start with lesson 1. Lesson 1 was that super easy lesson that we started with where we have lots of zeros, and we love when we multiply by 0 because of that zero property. Anything times 0 is 0. And so when we're looking at our example here, when we're looking at a problem like 7 times 5,000, we're thinking about this first problem that you see here, which is 7 times 5. We're pulling out our basic fact that we recognize. So 7 times 5 is 35, and then 5,000 has 3 zeros, so I'm going to plop 3 zeros on the end of my number to make my final answer 35,000. Let's look at a couple examples from our worksheet. This page was probably the most confusing for you guys because on the first slide, it pretty much goes in order: 4 times 1, 4 times 10, 4 times 100, and working your way down like a pyramid. But on slide 4, it's a little bit different. So let's do these together. 2 times 70. I would take 2 times 7, which is 14, and then there's 1 0 and 70, so that's 140. The next one is 7 times 4. 7 times 4 is 28, and then there's 3 zeros for 4,000, so I need 3 zeros on my answer. Make sure you don't forget your commas. 9 times 5 is 45, and 500 has 2 zeros, so put 2 zeros on there. 3 times 2,000, I would do 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 3 zeros. Okay, this part was a little bit trickier because we were kind of going out of order. So it was 30 times something equals 120. Well, again, I'm going to think about my basic fact, which was normally just like 7 times 4 or 2 times 7. So 3 times what equals 12? 3 times 4 equals 12. So I would put 4, and then if I think about this in my head, 4 times 3 is 12, and 1 0 from 30 would be 120. So the answer to number 9 is 4. Number 10, 6 times something equals 3,600. Now here I'm seeing 6 and I'm seeing 36, so something times 6 equals 36, and that answer is 6. So I would put a 6, and then this is just a single digit, so I would have to put 2 zeros on for there to be 2 zeros in my answer. In number 11, 2 times something is going to equal 8. That would be 4. And because 2 is all by itself, I do need some zeros over here, so I'm going to put 2 zeros on the back of my 4. Something times 600 equals 7,200. That's a big one. So I need to think, what times 6 equals 72? Interesting. Well, I know 9 times 6 is 54, 10 times 6 is 60, 11 times 6 is 66, so it must be 12 times 6. And I have already 2 zeros on my 600, and there's 2 zeros in my answer, so I don't need any zeros on my 12. So this would be 12. Okay? Those were the most confusing ones from lesson 1. Let's look at lesson 2. In lesson 2, we haven't really practiced this much since this lesson, so this would be a really good one to focus on when you're studying. Lesson 2 is estimating our products. And in order to estimate our products, we have to take our biggest number that we're multiplying by and round it to the greatest place value. When we round it to the greatest place value, we're going to have one digit with a lot of zeros on the back. So 756, you can see, rounds to 800, and then I'm back to the problems that I had in lesson 1. So let's do a couple of these together. Number 3 says 4,528. That's a big one that I should round. Now 4, when I find the place and look next door, there's a 5 next door, And 5 or more means I raise the score of the 4. So the 4 will become a 5. And then I need 3 zeros to fill in the rest of the spots. So now I'm solving 5,000 times 4. I know 5 times 4 is 20. And then I need 3 zeros at the end of my number. Number 4, 2,331. Find the place, look next door. Next door is a 3, that's 4 or less, so I let the 2 rest, and then I also need 3 zeros on the back of this one. So when I multiply 2 times 5, I'll get 10, and then my 3 zeros from 2,000 go on the back of that. Now, this part of greater than or less than, remember, if we raise the score, we circle more. If we had let it rest, we'll circle less. So here I raise the score, so I would circle greater than. And here I let it rest, so I would circle less than. Okay, let's talk about lesson 4. In lesson 4, we learned about partial products. That's one of my favorite lessons because it kind of breaks down all the steps in multiplication for us. So let's just look at numbers 3 and 4 here as well. In number 3, I am breaking apart my 2-digit number, 31. And remember, when I talk like a sloth, I say the parts of that number. So 31. I'm multiplying by 3, which goes on the side. And now it's like finding the area of my shapes. So I'm multiplying 3 times 30, which is 90. And then, 3 times 1, which is 3. When I add 90 and 3, I get 93. Simple enough, right? Okay, 42 times 2. 42 is my 2-digit number, so I have to break that apart into its place values. So I'm going to say it real slow, 42. And then I'm multiplying this by 2. So time to multiply. 2 times 40 is 80, and 2 times 2 is 4. So when I add 80 and 4, I get 84. Voila. So partial products can be used with any multiplication problem that we're doing. If there's 3 digits, you'll have 3 boxes. If there's 4 digits, you'll have 4 boxes, and you'll just break apart each of those place values and multiply by our single-digit number. Lesson 5. Lesson 5 was learning how to multiply when our numbers are stacked. So I go vertical next, and then I go diagonal after that. So when I multiply vertically, 2 times 2 is 4. And then when I multiply diagonally, 2 times 4 is 8. The way that I thought about it when I was teaching this lesson in class was that this bottom number, so in this case 3, has to say hello to each of the numbers up top. And we start at the right and we move our way over to the left. So first we'll say 3 times 1 is 3. And then 3 has to also say hello to 2, so 3 times 2 is 6. So our final answer is 63. This one was a super easy lesson because we did not have to regroup. Regrouping is where we get a little confused. So let's skip ahead to lesson 8. And if you notice, we skip a lot of lessons in chapter 4, so that means the ones that we did focus on must be super important for us to know. All right, if we start with our vertical multiplication, we'll do 7 times 6, which is 42. I like to write my number in order so that I put my digits in the right spot. So this says 42, but the 4 has to go up top so it can be regrouped and added to the next part of my problem. When I take 7 times 3, I get 21, and then I add the 4 on, which would be 25. So I write 25 in order as well. So my final answer is 252. Down here, number 11, I'll do 7 times 4 first, which is 28. Oops. So I need to write that in order, so 28. The 1 spot always goes in your answer, and the 10 spot always gets regrouped. 6 times 4 is 24, and then don't forget to add 24 plus 2 is 26. Let's do one more. 6 times 3 is 18, so 1 is regrouped and 8 is put down below. And then 4 times 3 is 12. Don't forget to add 12 plus 1 is 13. Oop, I am clicking all over the place. Okay, there we go. Lesson 9, our numbers just got bigger. Nothing really changes with the process. We just have more numbers to work with. So instead of the 2 only saying hello to 2 numbers up top, now there's 3 or maybe 4 or maybe 5 numbers that it has to say hello to. So let's do our blue problems here. Okay, 7 times 6, that's 42. Oops. There we go. Okay, 6 times 3 is 18 plus the 4, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. You can use your, oh my goodness, this is getting real annoying. You can use your fingers whenever you add that on so that it doesn't take so much time, or you can do it in your head, but make sure that you don't forget to add. 6 times 5 is 30, plus the 2 is 32. Lots of regrouping in this one. And our final step is for 6 to say hello to 4. So that's 24 plus 3 is 27. So our final answer is 27,222. Holy tunes! All right, next up, let's do 8 times 8. We should all know that 8 and 8 fall on the floor when we pick it up. It's 64. 8 times 1 is 8. Don't forget to add. 8 plus 6 is 14. Okay, final step. 8 times 4. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 1 is 33. So our biggest kind of realm of error in this is that we forget to add. So remember, we'll multiply, multiply, add, multiply, add. So multiply twice before you add your first time. In lesson 11, they just threw in some zeros for us so we could have some fun with that. Now, what's really cool about having zeros in the problem is that what happens is when I regroup this, so 9 times 6 is 54, and anything times 0 is 0, so I get to bring down the number that I regrouped, but we still need to practice regrouping just to be safe. And then when I do my last part, which is 7 times 6, I get 42, and that's my final answer, so it kind of makes the process a little bit quicker. Let's look at this one because this is where it's important that we are regrouping. So 1 times 9 is 9. Oh, not this one. Let's do this one. 6 times 4. Okay, 6 times 4 is 24. 1 times 9 was 9. That didn't regroup. But 24 does because it's a 2-digit number. So now 4 times 0 is nothing. So I just bring down my 2. But don't forget that we have to also take 4 times the next 0, which stays a 0. So don't skip that part. And then 4 times 2 is 8. So my final answer for that one is 8,024. Okay? So lots of practicing with our facts, lots of practicing with multiplication and stacking our numbers so that we can solve it using the standard method. And then we do have a few vocab terms that we are going to review. So this is what is on your slide, and that's because we skipped a vocab term in this chapter. It kind of changes throughout the grade levels. So learning, the one we skipped is distributive property, and learning it the way that it's taught in 4th grade will make it more confusing in the future. So we've decided to just kind of skip over that altogether, and you'll just learn that process later on. So the ones that we do have here are estimate, factor, multiple, partial products, product, and regroup. So when we're looking at this, these are all terms that we're very, very familiar with. The yellow ones are the only kind of new ones for this chapter, and they aren't even that new. So the answer or result of a multiplication problem. What's the answer to a multiplication problem? A factor times a factor equals a? I hope you said product. That's what we've been practicing. A blank is a number close to an exact value. So when I see that close to an exact value, I think of having lots of zeros. So that means I rounded. What's another word for rounding? Estimating. Okay, a blank of a number is the product of that number and any whole number. Okay, we've had this one probably on the last 2 or 3 tests. And so, well, probably 2 tests. This one is when we take a number and we multiply it by 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and keep going, we're finding the multiples of that number. So this one's a multiple of a number. To blank is to use place value to exchange equal amounts when renaming a number. Renaming must mean that I am regrouping. Oh, it's just regroup, sorry. Then we're skipping this one. So number 6, to use this means we'll find the product for the ones, tens, and so forth. So that is talking about place value. And then we'll add together the products that we get. Those are called partial products. And the last one, a number that divides a whole number evenly, is called this. Okay, that one is a little bit confusing because we normally think about this word in terms of multiplication. So a number that's multiplied by another number is a factor. A factor times a factor equals a product. Don't forget it. Okay, study these vocab terms. There's not that many this time, so hopefully we'll do much better on this part of our test. And then practice, practice, practice that stacked form and partial products way of solving multiplication problems, okay? Study, guys, and don't forget we have that Kahoot and quizzes that you can use to practice as well. Bye. Good luck on your test tomorrow.